Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I welcome you all in today's session. Up to last time, we were talking about different matrices of matching stage. We discussed that the strategy would be finalized through 3 stages. The stage 1 was known as input stage. And in our discussion, we discussed that in input stage, we have 3 matrices: IFE, EFE, and CPM. Then in matching stage, we talk about 5 matrices, which are TWAS, SPACE, BCG, IE, and Grand Strategy Matrix. And then we'll be moving towards the 3rd stage, which is decision stage. And there we'll be talking about QSPM matrix. So we discussed 4 matrices of matching stage in our last session, and they were TWAS, SPACE, BCG, and IE. And our today's session is starting from Grand Strategy Matrix. The Grand Strategy Matrix is based on 2 evaluative dimensions. The first one is comparative position, and the second is market or industry growth. This is the graphical representation of Grand Strategy Matrix. On the y-axis, we are taking rapid market growth, and on the x-axis, we are taking comparative position, either weak or strong, and on y-axis, we take market growth, either rapid or slow. And based upon these factors, we have 4 quadrants, and in every quadrant, we have different sets of strategies, just like we talked about different sets of strategies in SPACE matrix and BCG and IE. In quadrant 1, the recommended strategies are market development, market penetration, product development, forward integration, backward integration, horizontal integration, and it can also be related diversification. And these strategies must be followed when the competitive position is strong and when there is rapid market growth. But if there is slow market growth and weak competitive position, we can make a contrast and can move to the quadrant 3, in which retrenchment, related diversification, unrelated diversification, divestiture, liquidation, these types of strategies are recommended. In quadrant 2, for that matter, when the rapid market growth is there, the industry is developing, and the competitive position is relatively weak, we can move to quadrant 2, and that is talking about market development, market penetration, product development, horizontal integration, divestiture, and liquidation. Whereas in case of quadrant 4, we can say that the recommended strategies are related diversification, unrelated diversification, and joint venture. The division of strategies in these 4 quadrants are just like the division of strategies we have in BCG and SPACE matrix. For example, the quadrant 1 is like the star, the quadrant 3 is like the dog stage, and just like in SPACE, we talked about aggressive and defensive. So the aggressive quadrant is quadrant 1, and the defensive quadrant would be the quadrant 3, in which the market growth is slow and the competitive position is also calculated as weak. Now let's discuss some further detail of the Grand Strategy Matrix. The quadrant 1 is continued concentration on current markets, which is about market penetration and market development. And product development is an appropriate strategy. In quadrant 2, it is said that the SBUs in quadrant 2 are unable to compete effectively, and they need to determine why the firm's current approach is ineffective and how the company can best change to improve its competitiveness. Related to these matrices, we can conclude that the matrices are having different context, but their overall outcome would remain the same. For example, if a SBU is in star region of BCG matrix, it is not possible that it is at the same time in defensive quadrant of space or in quadrant 3 of grand. Just like that, if a SBU according to the BCG matrix is in dog stage, we cannot say that a BCG matrix is showing the relative market share as weak and the industry as in a decline, and at the same time the grand strategy matrix is saying that the SBU is in the quadrant 1, so that would not be a justified answer. So remember that all these matrices generate similar results. Now, talking about the quadrant 3, the SBUs in quadrant 3 must make some drastic changes quickly to avoid further decline and possible liquidation. And the SBUs in quadrant 3 are advised to go for extensive cost and asset reduction, which is done in the retrenchment and should be pursued first, rather than going for divestiture and liquidation directly. First of all, in the defensive context, we may start from retrenchment. If retrenchment is not fruitful, then we may go for divestiture. And if divestiture is not fruitful, then we may go for liquidation as a last resort before we are declared bankrupt. And in quadrant 4 of grand strategy matrix, the SBUs in quadrant 4 have characteristically high cash flow levels and limited internal growth needs, and often can pursue related or unrelated diversification successfully. These are the 5 matrices which Freda David has suggested in matching stage. But there are so many other matrices also which are developed by organizations to facilitate their strategy, to facilitate their performance measures, to facilitate their portfolio development, and to provide the baseline information for the top management to make appropriate decisions. Some of the matrices which I'm discussing now are not directly related to the matching stage, but they would give you an information, the rationale that how organizations can make different matrices to evaluate their strategic position and their strategic courses of action. For example, in this product market evaluation portfolio matrix, which I have taken from the book of Whelan and Hunger, the 2 X's we are counting upon are valued as competitive position and stage of product slash market evaluation. And based upon these two axis values, we have placed different products in the graphical representation based upon their comparative position, if it is either weak, average, or strong, and based upon the stage of product or market evaluation, which may start from development, growth, shakeout, maturity, saturation, and then decline. And we can have an overview of how different products are placed graphically in terms of their comparative position. And in one diagrammatical representation, in one graphic representation, we can see at the whole portfolio of our products. This is another example of General Electric business screen. The General Electric business screen is based upon, again, two axis values. On the y-axis, we are taking industry attractiveness, and we have valued industry attractiveness as low, medium, and high. And on the x-axis, we have taken business strength or comparative position, and business strength in terms of weak, average, and strong. And based upon these two axis values, business strength and industry attractiveness, we have developed a 3x3 matrix in which the left upper three boxes, they are known as winners. The lower right three boxes, they are known as losers. And in between, we have question mark, average businesses, and profit producers. If you could remember, this General Electric business screen is just like your IE matrix, in which we declared three regions: grow and build, hold and maintain, harvest or divest. So grow and build are the winners. Hold and maintain are the question marks, average businesses, and profit producers. And harvest and divest are the SBUs which belong to this loser category. So as we could see that different organizations have developed their own interpretations of the theoretical frameworks to find out how to place their portfolio together in one diagrammatic and graphical representation. Remember that these matrices are not magic formulas. We cannot just rely on the visual display of these matrices and declare our strategy. There are so many other things that we need to count upon. We need to look at the objectives. We need to look at the corporate policies. We need to look at the past performance. We need to look at our internal and external audit results. We need to look at the preferences of our stakeholders, the priorities of the board. So there are so many things which are counted when we are talking about the final strategy. Let's talk about another strategic frame, which is portfolio metrics for plotting products by country. So that is another way organizations can develop their portfolio. On the x-axis, we are taking comparative strength in terms of low and high. And on the y-axis, we are taking country attractiveness in terms of low and high. Now again, as we could see, the lower left, lower right three boxes are talking about harvest, divest context. The upper left three boxes are talking about investment and growth opportunities. And in between, we can say there is room for joint venture. There is room for different other selective strategies, and likewise. So we can also see that by changing the axis parameters, we can have different combinations of options to find out the graphical representation of our portfolios either product portfolios or business portfolios, so that the decision makers, the strategists, can have baseline information to decide for the future. Let's look on another matrix, which is proposed outsourcing matrix. And in this case, we are taking activities total value added to the firm's products and services on the x-axis, and we are taking activities potential for competitive advantage on the y-axis in terms of low and high. And if there is activities total value added to firm's product and services is low, and activities potential for competitive advantage is high, we are in the upper left box, which is talking about taper vertical integration, which means produce some internally. But if activities total value added to firm's product and services is high, and activities potential for competitive advantage is also high, we are in upper right box, which is talking about full vertical integration, which means produce all internally. And if the activities total value added to firm's products and services is low, and activities potential for competitive advantage is also low, we are in lower left box, and the lower left box is talking about outsource completely, which means buy on open market. And the next box we have is talking about activities total value added to firm's product and services as high, and activities potential for competitive advantage as low. And we reach to the context of outsource completely, which means purchase with long-term contracts. So we can also have some other access values and can make combinations and can match our context in that situation, and can graphically represent that what and how and why we should be pursuing. Let's look on another matrix, which is talking about methods of managing the culture of an acquired firm. Now suppose on the x-axis this time, we are taking that how much members of the acquired firm value preservation of their own culture. And on the y-axis, we are taking perception of the attractiveness to the acquirer. Now, in case of suppose you plan to go for horizontal integration or acquisition, and you need to know that what would happen to the culture. So we can take help from this matrix, which is telling us about the methods of managing the culture of an acquired firm. Now, suppose if we say that very much is the stance for how much members of the acquired firm value preservation of their own culture, and the perception of the attractiveness of the acquirer is very attractive. So we would be suggested to go for cultural integration. But if the members of the acquired firm value preservation of their own culture and the context is not at all, and if the perception of the attractiveness of the acquirer is very attractive, so we can go for assimilation. Likewise, separation and deculturation. These are the advised strategies for managing the culture of an acquired firm. So by showing you these matrices, the objective is to find out that how different concepts can be matched with one another, and as a result we can come up with suggested courses of action which are based upon the logical and rational approaches, and which can lead us towards more successful outcomes. Yet there is another matrix which I'm showing you. In this case, it is matching chief executive types with strategy. That how many types of CEOs are there, how many strategies can be there, and how can we match the strategic options with the types of the CEOs. So we can also see that this is again a very different concept, but we can make the matches, we can make the combinations of different values to find out our logical and rational approaches for crafting the strategy. So in this particular case, which we are looking at, the business strength and comparative position is categorized as weak, average, and strong, and industry attractiveness is categorized as low, medium, and high. Remember that this industry attractiveness can be derived from the comparative force analysis as devised by Michael Porter. So if the bargaining power of buyer is high, bargaining power of supplier is high, threat of substitute is high, threat of new entrant is high, the rivalry among existing firms is strong, so the industry attractiveness would be low. And if these values are on the lower side, as bargaining power of buyer is low, bargaining power of supplier is low, threat of substitute is low, threat of new entrant is low, the rivalry among existing competitors is weak, so industry attractiveness would be high. Okay. Now, based upon the business strength and its comparative position as compared with industry attractiveness, there are different strategic options, and we are matching different strategic options with the types of the chief executives we need to have. For example, in case of business strength as strong and industry attractiveness as high, the strategic option might be growth and focused on concentration strategies. So the CEO type we require would be dynamic, industry expert. In case an industry attractiveness is medium and the strategy you're going to follow is stability, the chief executive we need at that time would be cautious profit planner. And in terms of growth and diversification, when industry attractiveness is low, the type of chief executive we require should be analytical portfolio manager. But contrast to this, if we are following retrenchment and save company options, we need to have turnaround specialists. And in case of retrenchment, close company strategy, we need to have professional liquidators. So these are the different types of contexts we need to have as chief executives, which can craft an environment, which can craft circumstances, which can craft, who can craft the methods to make organizations more compatible with the strategic options they have, the industry attractiveness they are facing, and the comparative position they are exposed to. So I have just shown you the examples of different matrices from the book of Strategic Management and Business Policy written by Whelan and Hunger. And we have seen that we can take many types of access values and can make a match between their respective values to find out that what are the right options we are available with. Now, moving back to our first context, which was strategy formulation framework as devised by Frida David. And we discussed that there were 5 main matrices: the SWOT matrix, the space matrix, the BCG, IE matrix, and the grand strategy matrix. And based upon those 5 fundamental matrices, we have sorted out that what are the recommended strategies for our businesses, as we may be categorized in different quadrants of those matrices. Now, remember that the matching stage matrices were not having the ability to decide. The matching stage matrices were only there to generate alternatives for us and to sort out the final strategy out of those alternatives. The best strategic option we have out of those alternatives is devised by the decision stage, and the matrix we have in the decision stage is quantitative strategic planning matrix, abbreviated as QSPM. This single strategy matrix would help us reach to our final decision of selecting the best strategy for us, the best course of action we should be following to meet our objectives. So let's start quantitative strategic planning matrix, and it objectively indicates which alternative strategies are best. QSPM uses input from stage 1 analysis and matching results from stage 2 analysis to decide objectively among alternative strategies. And you can also see the sensitivity we are exposed to now, that if your basic data developed in input stage is not correct, is not accurate, and your matching is not creating the similar results in all the matrices of the matching stage, then obviously the QSPM would be handicapped and you would not be able to reach to the right decision. So the sensitivity of the analysis is of utmost importance. And we should be very much careful in crafting the options in our IFE, EFE matrices, and then eventually making the matches in the stage 2, and then eventually reaching at the stage 3. Now, this is the shape of the matrix we have, in which the first column is representing key factors, and these key factors are directly derived from the IFE and EFE matrices, as it is written on the slide under the key factors, that we have to write key external factors and then key internal factors. The key external factors may include economy, political, legal, and governmental aspects, social, cultural, demographic, and environmental perspectives, technological aspects, comparative issues. So these are all coming from the EFE. And in internal factors, we have the issues related to management, marketing, finance and accounting, production and operations, research and development, management, information system. So these are all the internal factors we are exposed to. And these factors would be directly coming from the IFE matrix. So the next column we have in the QSPM is the allocation of weight. And then the next 3 columns are talking about strategic alternatives, and these strategic alternatives are advised to us by the different quadrants of the matching stage matrices, in which our SPUs are placed according to their relative values. And from those quadrants, we can have strategy 1, strategy 2, strategy 3 as strategic alternatives. And then we'll be making the evaluation to find out that out of these strategic options, which particular strategy is our final decision. Now, how do we do that? For that, we have to follow certain steps. The first step we need to focus upon in crafting QSPM is saying that make a list of the firm's key external opportunities and threats and internal strengths and weaknesses in the left column of the QSPM. This information should be taken directly from the EFE matrix and the IFE matrix. A minimum of 10 external key success factors internal key success factors should be included in the QSPM. First of all, we're going to talk about the steps in the QSPM, and then we'll be looking at the filled matrix so that we could understand what our main context is. Now the step 2, once you have written the IFE and EFE factors in the left column, the step 2 is assign weights to each key external and internal factor. These weights are identical to those in the EFE matrix and the IFE matrix. So you don't need to change the weights. We have to allocate the same weights which we have allocated in the IFE and EFE matrix. The weights are presented in a straight column just to the right of the external and internal critical success factors. The third step is examine the stage 2, which is matching matrices, and identify alternative strategies that the organization should consider implementing. Now record these strategies in the top row of the QSPM. Group the strategies into mutually exclusive sets if possible. For example, we should be examining integration strategies separately as compared to the diversification strategies. So as we know that there are 3 types of integration strategies: backward vertical integration, forward vertical integration, and horizontal integration. So these 3 should be counted as one set. And as diversification, we know there can be related diversification, unrelated diversification, horizontal diversification. So these 3 can be counted as a separate set. Just like that, we have aggressive strategies, which are market penetration, product development, market development. So this can be counted as a separate set. And defensive strategies as retrenchment, divestiture, and liquidation, so this can also be counted as a separate set. So it is recommended that the group of strategies into mutually exclusive sets if possible. Now moving to the step 4, determine the attractiveness score, which is abbreviated as AS, defined as numerical values that indicate the relative attractiveness of each strategy in a given set of alternatives. Attractiveness score AS are determined by examining each key external and internal factor one at a time and asking the question, does this factor affect the choice of strategies being made? If the answer to this question is yes, then the strategies should be compared relative to that key factor. So remember, we are first of all covering the steps, and then I'll be showing you the demonstration of how these steps are incorporated into QSPM. So specifically, attractiveness scores should be assigned to each strategy to indicate the relative attractiveness of one strategy over other, considering the particular factor. And remember that the range for attractiveness score is 1 is equal to not attractive, 2 is equal to somewhat attractive, 3 is equal to reasonably attractive, and 4 is equal to highly attractive. Now, by attractive, we mean the extent that one strategy compared to others, which is going to enable the firm to either capitalize on the strength, improve on the weakness, exploit the opportunity, or avoid the threat. So these are the parameters we need to have in our mind when we are assigning the attractiveness score. Now, work row by row in developing a QSPM. If the answer to the previous question is no, indicating that the respective key factors has no effect upon the specific choice being made, then do not assign attractiveness scores to the strategies in that set. Use a dash or keep it blank. Use a dash to indicate that the key factor does not affect the choice being made. Note, if you assign an attractiveness score to one strategy, then assign attractiveness score to the other as well. In other words, if one strategy receives a dash or a blank space, then all others must receive a dash or a blank space in a given row. The step 5 is compute the total attractiveness score, which is abbreviated as TAS. So TAS are defined as the product of multiplying the weights, step 2, by the attractiveness scores step 4 in each row. The total attractiveness scores indicate the relative attractiveness of each alternative strategy, considering only the impact of adjacent external and internal critical success factor. The higher the total attractiveness score, the more attractive the strategic alternative, considering only the adjacent critical success factor. We'll be discussing and looking at the field demonstration of QSPM after we cover the steps. And the step 6 is compute the sum total attractiveness score, and the sum total attractiveness score, which is abbreviated as STAS. It is said that add total attractiveness score in each strategy column of the QSPM. The sum total attractiveness scores reveal which strategy is most attractive in each set of alternatives. Higher scores indicate more attractive strategies, considering all the relevant external and internal factors that could affect the strategic decisions. The magnitude of the difference between the sum total attractiveness scores in a given set of strategic alternatives indicates the relative desirability of one strategy over another. Now, this concludes our first session. Join in the second session to see the demonstration of QSPM.